Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Leadership. My name is Kevin and my wonderful co-host sharing our Leadership Mondays is Naomi Basson. Naomi, how are you doing?
Hi, Kevin. Welcome back. I'm looking forward to the session today. It is really cold in Cape Town. We've had non-stop rain. Cape of Storm really came to fruition this week. It's cold and wet, and we're looking forward to a wet weekend as well. So the log fire is being delivered, and it's log fire and sherry this weekend, I think. So it's cold.
Yes, it sounds like a perfect weekend to me. So Naomi, we started our lunchtime leadership chat sessions purely based on the fact that what we do is all about leadership. The leadership programs that we facilitate from Leadership Management International. That's what we want to share. We want to share more insights with people. But also one of the things that we also mentioned is, having leaders and people join us on the show and share more about their successes, part of their successes with the LMI programs, but also, tweaking people's minds and leaders out there to welcome them and share interesting stuff about what they want to share. But today we have someone who has completed the EPL, and we're going to chat about the EPL today. Tell us who is joining us, so we know they're going to join us in the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, so the guy that's joining us is Louw Nel, and he is a sales manager at Coca Cola Peninsula Beverages. And he's done some training with us, more than EPL, he's also done an EML. And when I spoke to him about what we're doing, he was very excited to get involved. And he's a very excitable human being. You guys get to meet him just now. And we'll ask him to tell us about his experience with EPL specifically.
Fantastic. So part of the total leadership concept that we mentioned last week that we actually spoke about, one of the foundationals that we always start with is your effective personal leadership program. And on the headliner for this, it always says releasing your untapped potential. So I'm going to speak about my experience, and you can speak about yours, and then we can cover some of the modules. But for me, when I started this, what I found in the first couple of weeks, I became really frustrated. When you start going and because it's that pattern that you sort of have to find, that habit formed process of going through your program, keeping, and having your facilitator kind of go, okay, so I'll see you next week. How's things going? And you've got that. But in the first couple of weeks, I was quite frustrated because I realized that the questions that this is starting to ask from a personal leadership perspective, I really started needing to churn how I did life, really. Did you have a similar experience? Because I know that, I really had to wrap my brain around it. But once it was there, my brain kind of like opened up, and I was like, okay, you're seeing some stuff here.
Yeah, so exactly when I started with my guys, I always say to them, whatever's in your material is not going to be brand new to you. It's not stuff you've never heard in your life. We're not bringing this magic to your desk that you've never heard before. So we know the stuff. But we've never had to really think about how we actually process the stuff in our lives all the time. So when you say you're frustrated, there's a combination of that. There's this, oh my word, I've now done this test or this questionnaire that asked me to do, and I'm really not looking as good as I thought I was doing in certain areas of my life now that I've done the questionnaire. So there's that realization. I've also had guys when they got to lesson 4 and 5 and that they were saying, I don't want to be part of this anymore because you're scratching where it's not itching, it's like, and it's really that, and I always say the more honest you are, the better you'll actually do through this process. So that honesty thing becomes, I'm testing my values, and I'm being pushed into certain areas that I need to look at my life at home and my life in my career, and am I really doing that well? So there is an uncomfortableness, but for me, and I think that's why you and I are there. We always hold your hand through this process. You never have to fear. It's normal. And when you get to purpose, and people say, "Oh, I don't have a purpose," it's like, slow down, we'll find it. So when we go through this stuff, I think people will get a clear understanding of what we do and why we say people get nervous. So I just want to mention right at the end of our discussion, I am going to put a PowerPoint slide quickly up. So if anybody wants to take notes of our conversation, it will all be there, point form, that you can take a few notes of it, okay?
Fantastic, that's perfect. So in the EPL specifically, we know that that's one of our longest programs. It's a really good sustainable foundation for people to really churn in that leadership in their own personal productivity and their own personal style and leadership. But essentially, I want to run through just some of the headlines, and then we can sort of touch on what that is and why it's there. So lesson 1 covers the potential for personal leadership. We have self-knowledge. We have 6 essential personal leadership steps. We have the take personal responsibility. I think that's also a big one, and I think that's where people sometimes get stuck. Discover your purpose. This is also something that we must touch on, because I know a lot of people really can't wrap their brains around it. And plan your path at lesson 6. Then we move on to ignite your passion, act with positive expectancy, follow through with persistence, living a balanced life, the art of successful communication, and then we end off with multiplying your leadership skills. So from that, the potential of your personal leadership, believing in your full potential, focusing on your strengths, the rewards of a leadership. I remember when I first did this module 1 with Greg specifically, he showed me a little diagram of why it's so important to really start understanding the importance of focusing on your strengths. You know, when your reticular activation system kicks in and suddenly you're going, this is a strength, this is what I do well. Find supporting evidence to support that. And I think it's a nice kickoff to starting this program, because it really helps you go through where I'm at and what potentially I should be focused on.
What I found very interesting, Kev, when we do that first lesson, and one of your tasks then is to list 5 of your strengths. And it's amazing how people can say, I don't know what 5 of my strengths are. Yeah. I can tell you what all my weaknesses are, but I can't tell you what my strengths are. I find that hugely interesting, that people don't know what their strengths are. And in the corporate environment where I play, I often see people do the old SWOT analysis, the normal strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And what do they focus on when they do performance appraisals? What are your weaknesses? Let's write a performance plan for you on your weakness, which is the weirdest thing. And we've all been through that for years and years in the corporate environment. And now I'm saying, I don't really want to know what your weakness is. I want to know what your strength is. And how do we focus on that strength to make it even better? So that's what that lesson is all about for me.
Absolutely. One of the things I just quickly want to touch on, and I know we have a time schedule here, but one of the things is when you measure your weakness and you focus and say, okay, I'm going to put 100% on my weakness, and you're only measuring like a 3 out of 10, but you're going to put 100% on your 8 out of 10, suddenly you exponentially, just from a simple math equation, you can sort of realize, if I'm doubling that and I'm really spending more time on my weakness, I've only really raised it by a certain amount but when I'm focusing on my strength, I've done it exponentially and I'm really kicking into gear. Yeah. And that's what I really loved about that sort of learning from that process. The second one, self-knowledge, the first thing that shoots out for me is the emotional intelligence. And again, like you mentioned, it's not like people don't know this, but it's a case of saying, well, how do you practically implement? And, when people start paying attention to how they show up emotionally and have that sort of take on understanding how you show up as a leader in that space, it does start asking questions and sort of question, well, how am I doing it?
And part of that lesson 2, when we go to the plan of action part of that file, lesson 2 goes hand in hand with really looking at your values. In your action file, you then do lesson 2, talk about EQ, and then you do your values. And values, I love doing the values. And values is such an eye-opener for people when they start doing that, is to say, hey, these are my top 10 values. Then I love to ask the question, what does that value mean to you? You go into corporates and you've got the values on the wall, and it's beautiful. When you ask the staff, what does that value mean? People can't tell you. So I'm very, very, very involved with values. In saying, if you say family is a value or integrity is a value, what does that mean to you? Because I can sit with a room of 10 people or 12 people and everybody will have family as a value. Yes, yet it means different things to different people. So I'm making it very clear to people, understand your values, because your morals will drive your values. You've got to understand your values. That goes hand in hand with the EQ lesson.
What I've also noticed is that people, if you say to people, so tell me what behavior supports this value. If you say integrity is my value, it's like, okay, tell me how integrity behaves. The moment you ask them how it behaves, they kind of go, well, I don't know. I don't know. What does integrity behave like? But essentially, if you don't literally find the actual behavior that supports your values, it's never actually going to kick into gear and sort of go, oh, this is why there's a value system. This is why I know that I'm paying attention to this more specifically, or this makes me feel good when my value is really supporting this. I absolutely 100% agree. It's such a powerful process to go through. And the more you know about it and you have that knowledge, the more it empowers you to go, okay, cool, I know where I'm at. And as a personal leader for my life, I'm kind of going, yes, I see why this supports my life.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, we move into the 6 essentials of responsibility, purpose, plan, passion, positive expectancy, persistence, all the P's. What stands out for me specifically around this area is that positive expectancy and persistence. A lot of the time, I find that that persistence for us to get up and do it again and get up and do it again and get up, and that's the one thing, when I was doing my EPL, Greg was saying to me, well, what kind of discipline do you have here? Like, do you have any kind of discipline?
Yeah.
And then I sort of, as a leader, part of your day-to-day function needs to kick into gear with that discipline, because if that's not shared with what it is you're doing, then, it's going to become your debilitator, really. Yeah.
So the 6 P's for me, personal responsibility, if you look at that diagram that we find in our file, personal responsibility lies at the bottom of that structure. So all the other P's sit on top of it. So everything starts with taking personal responsibility for everything. So I like that sort of process where they say, hey, this is the main thing. And then the other thing that's for me naturally is purpose. What is purpose? What does it stand for? What is it? And people get very confused with that. And I love that part of the 6 P's, yeah.
And then, we move through the 6 P's quite specifically through the program. But as you're saying, the responsibility and the purpose, how did you sort of wrap your brain around purpose? Because I know a lot of people struggle with that. And they, when you do that evaluation and you start taking action on it, your brain's literally going, I have no idea what my purpose is.
Yeah, so you and I both did NLP, and I remember getting into the NLP class, and the professor said to me, okay, Naomi, so why are you here? And I said, I want to know what is my life's purpose. I want to figure that out. And Dr. Claudius van Wyk said to me, Naomi, you're asking the wrong questions. And I said, what do you mean I'm asking the wrong question? He says, it's not what's my purpose in life, it's what is life's purpose for me. And that stuck with me. And when I work with my people, I always refer back to that. And I say, stop thinking that you're put on this earth to live a purpose, one purpose, and that's it. It's not about that. So I love that. I love those conversations because it's quite deep, and it really touches most of my clients that go through that lesson. Love purpose. Absolutely love it.
And also, people also have the idea of when they raise that question that you're all encompassing and going to change the world in the way that your purpose is driving. And that's not necessarily the case. It's not saying you need to be that guy. No. It's just, what is it for you? You know? And I think how I've languaged it in my head is, for me, it's like being salt. When you add salt to food, it tastes really good. When you add salt, or if you add too much salt, it tastes really bad. So for me, my purpose really is to be a bit of salt in people's lives, where sometimes it adds a bit of flavor to whatever you're doing. And if I can add a bit of flavor to your life, then, I'm living my purpose.
For sure.
And that's how I framed it for me. But I know we are running out of time. Can we bring Louw into our conversation? Because it's going to be nice to hear what he has to say. And
like we're in the middle of our, let's just see if he comes in there. Let's see where he is. Okay, I think while Loki's coming in, I think for me it's important that we actually explain to people that we are both a product of the product. We've done EPL, and out of that, and EPL is really a goal-setting process. So out of the goal-setting process is why I'm sitting here today. My goal was to have my own business and making a difference in people's lives. That's why I'm here. So Loki, hello Louw.
Hey.
This is Louw Nel. That's Kevin Britz. You haven't met Kevin. Thank you for joining us, Louw.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
Distant past.
Yeah. Yeah, streamlined.
So, Loki, I'm gonna lead the conversation. If you can tell our viewers who you are, what do you do, and then I want to just touch on you've done EPL. I can't remember which year. It was quite a few years ago, and your own. You know, I think I'm just going to leave you with it so you can talk. It's about what did you think when you started this process? You know, this woman from nowhere. You don't know anything about this process. What did you think? What did it mean to you? What did we discuss during the process? What changes happened for you? I'm going to put you on speaker for us.
Okay, thank you again so much for the opportunity to share this program. Effective personal leadership has had such a profound, you know, starter effect in my life that I'm full of it, and I want to share, you know, all the beautiful stuff that's come from this program. I'm always happy to share, and Naomi, thank you for having me. So my function is I'm the sales manager for Coca Cola in Vredenburg. I lead a sales team of 10 people directly, and indirectly we in total we're about 30 at the plant. So let's start at the start, right at the beginning. Okay, so in the beginning we were offered the opportunity to do effective personal leadership. I walked into the class for the first time, and I didn't know what to expect. He was this iron lady with a beautiful smile, and I was almost like a little bit of a deer in the headlights. You don't know what's happening and all that stuff. And I was honestly thinking it would be, you know, like a normal class setup where I'm going to get certain skills that I can do in my life, and that would be it. And boy, was I surprised. Okay, so the first class I remember was still a little bit, we were finding our feet, and then I realized something, Naomi. You know, after the second class and getting into the course, I realized that this course wasn't really about, you know, telling you what to do. It was more on introspection and finding out who you are and shining the light on just different aspects in your life. And if you remember correctly, it was in the first couple of sessions, everybody was engaging and was sharing, because for me personally, I became aware that that I was only living in certain you know, rooms in my life, and there were certain rooms that I wasn't even visiting or aware of, and because of that, my happiness in my life wasn't what it could have been, because I was focusing so much time and effort in certain departments and not really even aware of where I was lacking in others. And one of the things that this course certainly highlighted for me is, while it's true that you can, if you focus only on certain elements, become very successful in them, true happiness is when you embrace the entire thing. And so what effective personal leadership did for me was, firstly, to make me aware that there was certain departments in my life where I was absolutely not focusing at all. And secondly, it helped me to create certain goals on each of these levels, and to track them, and to make sure that those goals that I set was actually in line also with my values. And you opened the door. Do I still have time?
So Kim, your opinion. I see you dying to ask a question. Go.
No, so because you know, being in a position where you are a leader and you have a team that you're working with, I'm always fascinated, like knowing that you start taking on this program and you start initiating and actioning a lot of it. How did you see how this was influencing you, and in respect to how you were doing, you know, your sales team and leadership in your sales environment? How did you see that sort of play out for you?
It was amazing for me. Firstly, Kevin, it was a, you know, you don't see, I couldn't see, you know, potential and growth potential and stuff in others, because I couldn't see it in my own life in certain facets. Although certain facets were doing good, others weren't. And effective personal leadership, what it did for me is it highlighted it for me. So when I became aware of this, potential in different areas of my life, when I saw it in myself, I started seeing that potential in the people around me as well. And I started sharing some of the teachings of the program, just little bits of it. I'm not a facilitator or anything, but I was getting so much benefit from it that I was starting to turn on the light with certain firstly the guys that I trusted completely. That you have certain people that are really close, and then later on it grew. And we got so much momentum at this stage. I can honestly tell you, it totally transformed the way that I work with my team. The culture in my team is completely transformed, and we're doing exceptionally well. I'm going to use, Kevin, I'm going to use COVID and all the challenges that comes with that as a perfect example of that. It's a highly stressful environment. COVID has put us in a situation where we need to change and adapt daily. The market changes, our products change, with different pressures. And I can honestly say that this program has given us a tightness and a culture that we can adapt to these changes much easier and faster than other businesses and opposition and even in our own company in different departments that haven't been exposed to it yet. And it is in tough times like these that these growth elements become really, really, really clear. I think when the ship is running, normally and it's happy times, you don't realize the difference so much as you do see it now. Because we had our MD visit the small Platteland team 2 weeks ago. We generally have some of our guys coming, and they always report afterwards. They like coming to us because of the culture and the energy in the team, and that I contribute wholeheartedly to LMI and the teachings that I took from there. So first, LMI made me aware, and it created the awareness and impetus in my life, and because of that, such a profound effect, I shared it in my team, and now everybody's benefiting from it. It's beautiful.
So, like in closing, personal relationships. We talk a lot about work. I know the change that's happened for you there. Personal relationships, in 2 words, 2 sentences. How did that change for you?
Fantastically well, because I was, like I said, in certain departments, I was always very in my life previously, even before LMI and the EPL course, I was always driven and training and all that stuff. But there were certain elements in my life that I was completely missing. I was neglecting spirituality. My family life wasn't so great. I thought it was. But the program highlighted that I actually had some work there because I was totally out of balance. And family, friends, spirituality, everything is now more in balance. And I'm much happier for it. I'm happy. My happiness level has increased threefold from the time that before EPL to now. I can't explain it. I'm generally much more happy because my life is more balanced.
No, I just want to touch on that point Louw, that you mentioned now. Because I know that when we do these programs, we also often do it in group format, right? So yes. You were also facilitating with Coca Cola through actual group settings.
Yeah.
And
yes.
That's what I find such a beauty, as you're saying, Louw. When you have a team that's really sort of working at the same sort of program, where they all becoming leaders and all looking at the balance of their life and how all of that sort of now, influences who they get to influence as, part of their teams. And it's such a beautiful process to see our whole company sort of go, yes, okay, let's together move forward and achieve those outcomes that we're looking at and the goals that we're setting. And when everyone's on board with getting themselves onto their own personal leadership style and moving forward, it also, impresses so much from an impact. It's almost like a big co-creation masterclass that people can get into and really drive the output that people are looking for.
Okay, the group thing is twofold. It's obviously learning from others. So I'm very fortunate to be working with Coca Cola for the last 8 years. You know, it's like it's a continuous thing. So you become part of the family and part of the business. And there I've seen that within a company like that, that people actually lived in little silos until we started training together. So Louw in Friedenberg, where he's from, and Gerard and Hermanus, they knew about each other, but they never actually knew each other until they started training together. And then they found how much similarities there are within their businesses being outside of the main centers and that, and they could support each other then from that aspect and that. So group training for me is amazing, and I love doing those kind of things. But it's also for me, it's important to see that someone like Louw and a lot of the guys actually take what they learn and they go distribute it to the guys on the ground and in the face of the customer, and that maybe doesn't get to our programs and that. You know, it's always that thing about knowledge is only power when it's shared. And that's really what they do. You know, they take what they got and they take it home. No, I want to say thank you to you. It was absolutely wonderful to see you. I haven't seen you for a while, so it's lucky to see you. Good luck in Friedenberg and the rain and the coldness and everything else. Thank you for joining us.
No, before
Thank you so much for having me.
In just for 1 minute, why would you recommend the EPL to anybody? Just give us 1 minute of like, this is why.
Oh my word! And any business needs EPL because it's a starter. It's an awareness starter in your life that is actually, for me, it started the whole thing. It changed something in the way that I think, and from there on, I had a space where first of all I could launch and get these beautiful things in my life, and then spread and infect the people around me with the teachings that I got from EPL, and directly as a result of EPL, I'm working in an environment where people care for each other, they grow together, they share stuff, and it's generally a great environment to work in. So who would not want to be part of that?
Logan, thank you very much, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Louw. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate that.
See you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
So when we deal with people like that, Kev, and the excitement and the it's I think that's why I do what I do. You know, he hasn't been briefed beforehand to say, hey, this is what you need to come say. This is just speaking from the heart. You know, he asked me when I asked him if he would join us, what do I need to talk about? I said, from the heart. That's all I want you to do, and that's what we get from people when they've done our training. You know?
Yeah, it speaks for itself. And the wisdom, like you were saying when we started, it's a lot of the information is people know about it, but the way that the programs are set up and the actual habit form process of running through it, that's what really impacts, especially when you have a group and they're working together and they're all doing the same thing and they sort of learning from each other and getting that feedback from each other. So wonder, and I know you've got a slide that you want to share from sort of to capsulate today.
Yeah.
So I mean, we could literally take up another hour talking about this.
Yeah, so while you're talking through it, I'm just going to get my screen sorted that I can actually share my screen with the guys. So when I said in the beginning, remember, that get your pencil ready and take some notes. Yeah, Kev, we've touched on probably half the lessons in that process, in that program. And there is so much more to it. So I'm glad we could touch on some of the stuff for the guys and hopefully entice them to actually ask for more information. If the slide works, I'll show you a little bit about this program.
I'll also, in the description box below, when the video goes out, I'll put a few links for anyone who wants to find out more about the EPL and the overviews, just to have an idea of what we're talking about today and what Louw is sharing. They can also, but also the notes that you've shared with us today, it's a good sort of takeaway.
Yeah, so really just about why would anybody do EPL? Because it's the core of an individual's character. And I'm not going to read everything on the screen, because we'll just share it. And it's really about that starting point of your self-motivation. And please don't get it wrong when we say effective personal leadership. It's not a management thing. We're all leaders within our own environment and our own lives. So effective personal leadership is about you as an individual, not because you're a boss or a manager or anything else. So what's included if you sign up with us? You have access online to your course anytime, anywhere, on your computer, on a tablet, on your smartphone. And within that, you have your audio. We have online quizzes, interactive content. Your materials is designed for a proven learning experience. You have weekly or bi-weekly meetings with us as facilitators or your coaches. Obviously, we do a 90-day review after you've done your completion of your program. And then the triangle of communication that we spoke about last week is always still available within that process. Okay, so the 6 areas that we touch on. We spoke about being a balanced individual. So we actually touch on your profession of finance, your spirit in education, society and culture, body and health, ethics and morals, family and home. If I touch on that body and health, when Louw was doing his training with us, he was on this health thing and he suddenly realized how unhealthy he was and he started making green smoothies. So if you go to Friedenberg, you get a green smoothie when you visit. Okay. I'm not going to go through all of this, advantages and benefits. I think Louw's spoken a lot about. Who should do EPL? I often get that question, is who should be doing this program? Well, you know, for me, I often get it in corporates where they say, you've got to train our staff. Those are normally the people who need to actually really also come, because we lead by example. So top management and entrepreneurs, all managers of staff, because you can't manage other people if you can't manage yourself. And then obviously any individual who is interested in embarking on self-development. Okay, so then program highlights, I forgot that we started on the first 3, of course, of our program, and we got them all listed here. So how long does it take? Program takes, there's a kickoff that happens, then there's 12 modules, and we run the modules 1 module a week or 1 module every 2 weeks, depending on the client. We do a mid-course review. At the end, we do a final course review. I like to actually get the guys to put a vision board presentation together, and then obviously you'll have graduation and certification at the end when we're done with you. And that's really it. And we, 30 minutes is a short time to tell people about the wonderful things we do.
Yeah, so we haven't even managed to cover all we should be covering, but I think Louw shared some really useful insights and why it's such an impactful program. I'll also put this video on my personal website page under the EPL because this program is also under mine. So I'll put this video there. They can go watch it if you want to know about the EPL. Naomi and Kevin are talking about it, and here it is, right?
Yeah.
This will be going out again all the time, every Monday. So it's lunchtime leadership, and for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about the LMI programs and having wonderful testimonials. And I think today was such a nice one from Louw, and such a good version of why he recommends the process and this program. In aim of the total leadership concept that we spoke, that total leadership concept, next week we're going to be chatting about what's next. It's effective personal productivity, right?
Let's do that. We'll do EPP, effective personal productivity. We'll chat about that. That's perfect.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's all about productivity, and it really gives you a good outline on how unproductive we can possibly be. So it really touches on those points. But once you get your brain wrapped around it, it really starts awakening up or awakening some absolute productivity within your own space. But guys, that's lunchtime leadership for today. It's always just in half an hour, and hopefully delivers as much impact as we can. If you want to find out more about Naomi and myself, all the information will be in the description box below on YouTube, and also shared on all our LinkedIn pages and Naomi, thank you so much. It's so much fun having chats with you, and it's so insightful. And yeah, I'm looking forward to next week.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you for everybody watching, and share our stuff. I think, like I said right at the beginning, LMI is the best kept secret in South Africa, so let's share it and let people get to know about us. I think that's important.
Yeah, and we're going to share this. I specifically share this out on LinkedIn. So if you want to get hold of one of us, I always tag Naomi in the post. So shoot Naomi a message, or myself. Gladly set up some time to go through the program and explain exactly what we're doing and how we do it. We look forward to touching, getting connected with everybody.
Cheers, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Ciao, bye.